Hello everyone, I'm George Taylor from Imaginerding, and on this episode, we're going to take a look at historic Cypress Gardens at Legoland Florida. Cypress Gardens, located about 45 minutes from Walt Disney World, was one of the first major tourist attractions in Florida. Dick Pope Sr. and his wife Julie opened Cypress Gardens on January 2nd, 1935, on about 12 acres of property off of Lake Eloise. The property was originally a yacht club, and the Popes used the clubhouse as the gift shop and the tea room. Pope was a master salesman and immediately deluged the media with photos. Pope is also credited with getting weathermen to announce that it was partly sunny instead of partly cloudy when referring to Central Florida weather. And by 1963, Cypress Gardens was tied with the Grand Canyon as the #1 tourist destination in America. During the design and construction of Cypress Gardens, Pope brought in Robert and Helen Dahlgren to help lay out the park. The Dahlgren specialized in photography and made sure that every angle of the park could be photographed. Pope and Robert would set up a camera, and they used an 8x10 frame to lay out the paths and the vistas. Most of the construction was done by hand, including all of the canals, which were reinforced with wooden walls. Most of the muck removed was loaded onto construction boats by hand and then hauled away. Many of the paths were built of large wooden blocks of cypress. Several miles were laid, and they were expected to last for hundreds of years. In 1938, electric boats took people on tours of the swamps and the canals, and those actually continued until the park closed. When you think of Cypress Gardens, you most likely think of water skiing and the Southern Belles. So how did the Southern Belles make their debut? In 1940, a flame vine outside of the entrance was killed by a freeze. The gardens inside the park had been protected from the freeze, but people would approach the front gate, see the dead plant, and assume that the gardens were just as dead. So, pretty girls from the office staff were asked to don old-fashioned dresses and stand in front of the dead flame vine to distract the visitors. They were told just to be pretty and flirt with everyone. It worked so well that the Southern Belles became a permanent fixture at the gardens. There's a fabled banyan tree that you can walk through and under. It was planted in 1939 in a 5-gallon bucket. Almost 80 years later, and the banyan tree provides peaceful and welcoming shade along the path. There were some other highlights that I missed, like the Oriental Garden and the famed Florida pool. I simply ran out of time since I wanted to see the water skiing show. So what about the water skiing that Cypress Gardens is so famous for? The Battle for Brickbeard's Bounty Water Ski Show, which is a live-action water stunt show that's on Eloise Lake, takes part in the historic Cypress Gardens, ski show area where they've had the built-in seats, covered seats, right there on the lake, and they've added a lot to that area over the years. On my most recent trips to Legoland and other parks, I've really taken an effort to make sure I see the shows. And I have to admit that the Battle for Brickbeard's Bounty was, really geared for little kids. I mean, they've got Lego people skiing, and the storyline is exactly what you'd expect, but it was very cute and very charming, and I know anyone who loves Legos or really is into Legos is going to love the show as well. Of course, parents are going to enjoy the aquatic acrobats that take place. I have to admit, I was very impressed when the skiers would come out and do certain tricks and daredevil stunts, things that I had not seen before. And a lot of the stunts harken back to the earliest days of Cypress Gardens. I will caution you, though, that if you do sit down in the front, they warn you that the certain section you will get wet. And trust me, you will get wet. Overall, the show, as I mentioned, was very cute and definitely something that you want to check out and make time for on your visit to Legoland, Florida. So let's take a look at how water skiing got started at Cypress Gardens. A group of soldiers that were stationed at a nearby training base during World War II happened to see one of the many PR images that Dick Pope had sent out. This one was of a woman skiing. Well, many of the soldiers showed up at Cypress Gardens ready to pay for a show. And since Pope Sr. was serving in the war, his wife rounded up the kids and several friends, and they put on an impromptu water skiing show. The following weekend, it's reported that over 800 soldiers came to see the show. But even before that, Pope was heavily involved in water skiing. Pope and his brother promoted speedboats and aquaplanes throughout Central Florida during the 1920s. Pope would ski behind the boats to, sort of promote their power. In 1928, Pope became the very first person to ever complete a jump on water skis by jumping a wooden ramp, and he went a distance of about 25 feet. The water skiing show was such a staple that Disney even copied it from, 1972 to 1973. You actually sat between the monorail station and the lagoon to watch the show. And when it ended, many of the skiers moved over to SeaWorld, which debuted in 1973. Currently, the Cypress Gardens, part of Legoland Florida, is about 39 acres and is bordered by Lake Eloise and the Legoland Water Park. It's about an hour's stroll, but well worth the time because of the vistas and the history you'll find throughout the park. So the next time you're at Legoland Florida, don't hesitate to head towards the skiing area and take a little stroll through the gardens. It's peaceful, relaxing, and a wonderful look at an old Florida attraction that's still going strong. I'm George Taylor from Imaginerding, and thank you so much for checking out this video. Leave me a comment and let me know if you've ever had a chance to visit Cypress Gardens, either as it became a part of Legoland Florida or when it was its own park many, many years ago. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.